I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
What's up, Dreamfasters? It is Danny Gallows, of course. Who'd you think it was? And I hope you guys are having a fantastic day right now. I know I am. Why? Well, because I just saw Dune 2021. So welcome, finally, to our full non-spoiler review of Dune 2021. Now, I have been so excited to see this movie, seriously, like, just dripping with anticipation because, I mean, you guys know me. I grew up with all that great, dark children's fantasy. But it wasn't just the children's stuff, or the stuff that was supposed to be geared towards kids anyway, like, like the Dark Crystal and the Secret of Nim and Fern Gully and stuff like that. But there was also really, really awesome sci-fi in the 80s and the early 90s growing up. You had stuff like Star Wars, obviously, Star Trek, Dune, even, wayward sci-fi films like Krull, which were really, really cool, very, very imaginative, creative films. So, needless to say, when I heard that my favorite director, Denis Villeneuve, was once again getting behind one of these epic properties, I was just like floored. I could not wait to get into the theater to see what he was going to do with this movie. And so, now after finally experiencing it, how was it? It was epic. So, I have to say, right off the bat, the absolute best aspect of this film is that it is pretty much the best adult sci-fi film that I've seen in a long time, I think, in modern cinema history, I would dare to say. And by adult, I mean that it's geared towards an older audience. Even stuff like Star Wars, as good as it is, it's really geared towards kids. So there's a lot of fast pacing and there's a lot of goofy stuff and a lot of weird comedy. And it can get kind of dark, but it never really gets too dark. Here is a film that goes full-on bloodthirsty dark. This is fully geared toward an adult audience, and this is what I've been wanting for a long time. I've been screaming, give us some adult sci-fi, enough with the kids stuff. Give something to the older audiences for us older guys to enjoy, the 30, 40-year-olds right now who are looking back on this with very, very kind nostalgia. Give us something to enjoy, and man, did they deliver with this film. And that is precisely what I love so much about all of Denis Villeneuve's films. As you guys can see behind me, I'm a massive Blade Runner fan, especially Blade Runner 2049. He did such a fantastic job at that film. And why? Well, it was because of the aesthetic, the direction, the atmosphere, the soundtrack, right? He is so good at mimicking everything that made those films great, but with a modern touch. So he's like the perfect director. And I've said this many times before, I'll say it again, I really think Denis is the next Spielberg. This guy has so much potential to be the next great legendary director, and once again here with Dune, he fully proves that. And speaking of the soundtrack, Hans Zimmer has really outdone himself for this film. I'll go out on a limb and say that this is quite possibly at least one of the greatest modern sci-fi film tracks in history. Like, almost the best I've heard since maybe Star Wars. Hans Zimmer proves once again in this film that he is a master-class composer. The soundtrack just fully envelops you. It really brings you onto the planet, brings you into this universe, and it perfectly mirrors all of the emotions and situations and characters and atmospheres that this movie brings out. It was so, so good. Another amazing aspect of this film was the cast. Before we even went in to see the movie, we all knew that the cast looked amazing, but how did they perform? Well, perfectly. I think for the most part, every single actor and actress in this film was perfectly cast. And for the individual roles that they played, it felt so real and so authentic, and they bring so much passion to their performances. Again, it transports you inside the world of Dune, and they just give these very, very captivating performances. You find yourself very, very connected to these characters as we go through the film, and that is something that a lot of directors and filmmakers are sorely lacking these days, is that character development and that character connection. Well, here is a cast that gives a 5-star performance, so that you know that you are, every single character in this movie just gets under your skin in some way, and you find yourself connecting to them. Even the evil characters in this film, they're just deliciously evil, and I love it so much. Great cast, perfect casting. But if you were to ask me what the greatest aspect of this film is, the most wonderful aspect of the entire film is, I would have to say, and possibly also the most underrated aspect that not a lot of people are talking about, is that this film is very, very artistic. I mean, the cinematography in this movie is jaw-dropping incredible. You find yourself, sitting there and you don't realize that you've had your mouth agape drooling for the last 5 minutes just because of these amazingly just gorgeous, beautiful, indescribable, ethereal cinematography that's going on in here. It makes you so fixated to the movie. It's as if the way that the cinematography and the directing is done, it's as though the movie is like coming through the screen and pouring out of your TV set. And again, it's transporting you to that world. That's what this movie does such a great job of as a whole, is taking you and planting you inside of the screen, inside of the movie, so that everything feels so real and so authentic. And, Denis Villeneuve once again proves that just like Hans Zimmer is a masterclass composer, Denis Villeneuve is a masterclass director, and he is well on his way to bringing us, the most epic movies that we've ever seen. Now, however, with all of that said though, as much as I did love this film, I did have one minor problem with this film as a whole, and that is that, I don't know, I just feel as though the film wasn't as good as it could have been. It was incredible, it was epic, it was awesome, whatever killer words you want to use to describe this movie, because it was that good. But there is kind of a feel to this movie to where you're watching it, especially towards the end of the film, you're watching it and you're just kind of like, I'm not sure, it could have been better. They could have done this better, they could have done that better. Because, if you're familiar with the original source material, not just the movie but the books, you'll know that, or you'll realize as you're watching the movie, that there's a lot of character attributes that are left out and not touched on and very, very underdeveloped. And it seems as though, in a lot of ways they're kind of reimagining some characters and they're redeveloping some characters. They're kind of like rehashing some attributes about some characters, or they're just not touched on and left out completely. And it does rub you the wrong way a little bit, because there are some important character traits and stuff like that that should be in the film, which will give you more character development, and there wasn't any reason to leave them out. You know what I mean? Because it's not, he had plenty of time for this movie. This movie was like 2 hours and 35 minutes or something like that. There's no reason to leave any important character traits and attributes out, but you find yourself, going through the movie saying, well, wait a minute, what happened to this? What happened to that? Why isn't this person doing that? Why isn't she doing this? Why isn't this happening? Why didn't they ever touch on that? So it does feel a little bit strange. It does rub you the wrong way, and I think it really could have done better, but, with the overall experience, I don't think that, if you're not familiar with the original source material, which, realistically you don't have to be, because this is a reimagining of Dune. It's Dune 2021. It's not the old Dune. They're putting a modern take on that, so you do have to kind of understand that. But, there are certain parts of me that are purist. I am a purist when it comes to certain things, especially with sci-fi and fantasy. And yeah, you do notice that as you're watching the film. You're like, man, I wish they could have done that better. So it does feel a little bit strange at times. And the last thing that I want to touch on before I wrap up this review is, I saw a lot of people complaining about the pacing of this movie being too slow, but if you're familiar with Denis Villeneuve's style, you'll know that that's how all his movies are. All his movies are incredibly slowly paced, and he does that for a reason. He does that to draw dramatics out. He does that to draw character performances out. He really tries to focus on the emotions and the passions of not just the characters, but the atmospheres and the environments as well. And I don't know about you guys, but that's why I'm such a big fan of his, is because of that. I mean, Blade Runner 2049 is the same way. It's an incredibly slow-paced film. You know, I mean, you could almost compare watching his movies to reading a book. It is so slow and sometimes meandering, but he does it so artistically that it really brings so much more out of the film, because when you compare it to something, say, like a Marvel film, right, that moves at breakneck speed, it's just lightning fast, it's just bam, 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 bam. The editing is so quick and the action is so quick and everything just flies by, and before you know it, the movie is over. And there's no time to actually like slow down and bring those character performances out. That's what Denis Villeneuve does the opposite of. He does the opposite of that. His films are purposely slow paced so he can draw all of that emotion out of the entire film. And I love that, and that's why I'm such a big fan. So I don't think it's boring at all. I think that it's perfect, and I think that more filmmakers honestly need to take a note out of his playbook for making movies. Alright, my friends, that's enough blathering from me for right now. So what is my overall final score for Dune 2021? Well, I'm going to go with a... bam! 90%. Yeah, guys, this film is awesome. I can't put it any more simply than that. This film is awesomely epic and so good in every sense of the word, in every aspect, in every facet. All the way around, this film is just so awesome. You know, take Star Wars, take Lord of the Rings, take Mad Max Fury Road, mix them all together, and you got Dune 2021. And realistically, what it does is it takes the best aspects of all of those great fantasy properties and it paints its own unique picture. You know, I see a lot of people saying, you know, the next Star Wars is here, the next Lord of the Rings is here. No, Dune is here. You guys got to understand that, you know, Dune just isn't as popular as Lord of the Rings. It's not as popular as Star Wars yet. But Dune's mythology is just as deep and vast as Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. It's just that it hasn't been brought into the modern cinema. Now it finally has. Dune is here. Dune has the potential to take over Star Wars. I don't think it'll take over Lord of the Rings. It might take over something like Harry Potter. But yeah, Dune is here, guys. And once we become attached to this universe, you will see that in many ways it's even better than Star Wars, it's even better than Lord of the Rings. It's not greater than them, but what the mythology does, finally being introduced to this mythology, is going to open up a whole new universe for us to see. And you guys are going to see how truly great Dune is. But, of course, as you know, these are all just my opinions. We all have different opinions about stuff, so what did you guys think? Leave all of your thoughts, opinions, comments, whatever you want to down below in the Great White Void. Did you guys think it was as great as I thought it was, or do you guys have a completely opposite opinion? You know, let me know. Leave all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the Great White Void, and I'll see you guys back here for the next movie review very soon. Hopefully there's something else just as good to review, but I don't know. I don't have any faith in Hollywood. Maybe I should go do something about that. I have a knife. Hollywood? Huh? Come here, come here!